Hi, I'm Lisa Bagshaw. Welcome to Bold Leaps, the show that interviews creative, inspiring, successful people about the risks they've taken to pursue their dreams. And today's guest is legendary Canadian Music Hall of Famer Joey Shithead, founder and frontman of DOA, international hardcore punk sensation. Joseph Edward Keithley was born in the mid-50s on Burnaby Mountain, at a time when most of the dads on his street were war veterans who had been given 2 acres of land and a house. Even though his father held firm on right-winged opinions, Joe, from an early age, had different ideas. At 8 years old, Joe remembers being deeply affected by key issues in the world, including the Vietnam War, nuclear testing, and environmental issues. And then there was music. At 11, he wanted a drum set. His mother helped him with the cost of the kit, and he started playing in the basement, much to his father's chagrin. By the time he was 16, Joe and a few of his high school buddies were playing in a band and protesting for Greenpeace. After a brief experience at law school, he decided that was not for him. And at 18, he left home with $100 and his sleeping bag and pursued his dream of music. This fusion of Joe's two passions, music and activism, has prevailed in Joe's life to this day. His incredible life has been an octane-fueled, fast-paced, outrageous adventure, being known not only as the Godfather of Hardcore Punk, but also an outspoken activist, protester, and a man in service of the people. Welcome to the show, Joe.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. I just find this story to be the dichotomy and yet the fusion of these two passions, the activism and the music from such an early age.
Yeah, it just kind of worked out that way. Like you mentioned, my father was a very, very right wing. That turned out me and my brother and my sister is an artist. Still is. My brother became a union organizer, and I became a punk rocker. Let's just say my dad wasn't too happy at the results. So.
Well, what about the activism? So from a very young age, you seem like you were deeply moved by what was going on in the world and with the people of the world.
There was a couple of different things. The one thing, it took me about 30 or 35 years to realize that, because this was like the height of the Vietnam War, the nuclear arms buildup between the Soviet Union and the United States. And what happened is there was a lot of protest music going on. I was just a kid, like 10 years old or whatever, but my older sister, Karen, kept bringing this stuff home, like Peter, Paul, and Mary, Bob Dylan, Woody Guthrie, whatever, it's, that kind of protest music was going on.
She was bringing records home?
So I was hearing it, was kind of seeping into my consciousness without me realizing that planted the seed for this activism. And then my brother got into it too. And, it was a pretty tumultuous time. I mean, war in those days on TV wasn't censored. It was pretty gritty. Not like now where, they don't show like what it's really like in a lot of ways, so it was a lot more in your face every night at 6 o'clock.
I think it's fascinating to me because it's one thing to watch it on the news, but you seem like you were very deeply affected to the point of taking action from such a young age. Do you know how you can explain that?
Yeah, I think, it just kind of happened because that was kind of music we listened to, like Jimi Hendrix, Country Joe McDonald were like war protesters type thing. And the environmental movement was really just getting started at that point. I mean, I know it has roots a long ways back before that, but it started to take off. And Greenpeace, being founded in Vancouver, the first real protest I got into was 16, and we're set to protest the Americans testing nuclear arms in the Amchitka Islands off the end of Alaska. And so they urged students at schools around Metro Vancouver to go and protest. So we left Burnaby North, about 300 or 400 of us. Our principal tried to stand in the driveway like and tried to block like 300 kids, and we all just laughed and thumbed our nose at them. And we went down and marched around the American embassy downtown on Pender Street, and chanting away and all that kind of thing. And
Well, did you feel was that just something fun to do at 16, or did you actually feel something really deep? As in, I really want to do something about this.
My friends and I were like pretty into this, like ecological, protect the environment, stand up against war, stand up against the nuclear arms buildup. Because it was growing. It was like the late 60s, early 70s. And when we did this protest when I was 16, that would have been like 72, I guess, right? And we talked about it all the time, and that was the kind of music we listened to. And then finally this opportunity to participate came along. We'd never had this opportunity before. And that kind of just started the ball rolling from there, and really took off, obviously, by, when I got into punk rock. But I mean, I graduated when I was 18, obviously, from Burnaby North, and I went to SFU. My thought was to be a civil rights lawyer. And, I was inspired by some of the stuff that the lawyers that are protecting people, like protesters in the United States, these big things that have gone on in Chicago at the Democratic Convention there. And, but I only lasted about 5 months at school, and I ended up in a punk rock band. So that was the end of my law career. It was pretty minute.
Well, I mean, very noble that you wanted to be a civil rights lawyer, and
right.
You were at SFU because it was the environment there was very
volatile. Yeah,
volatile. And how did you feel when you made the decision? I'm not going to do this anymore, and I'm going to pursue music.
Well, I wasn't doing very well at school anyway, so it wasn't that tough of a choice, right? I was a DJ at the local radio station there at SFU, and we had a fledgling band with me and my friends up in Burnaby that wasn't particularly good.
Yeah.
It took us a while to learn that. So the decision was easy. It was just more fun playing music, and I thought, I've been going to school ever since I was 6 years old, so that's like enough of this, right?
Right.
My mother was pretty disappointed, but hey, that's the way it goes. Kids don't do what their parents want them to do most of the time.
So, did you feel excited to leave there, or scared, or?
No, it was like pretty straightforward because we started like a rock band, and then it. As they say, that wasn't very good. Mm-hmm. And we got fired from our first job up in Merritt, BC, and the guy wouldn't pay me. And they said, look, I'm saving your life. You play here another night, you guys will get killed, right? Anyways, long story. That could take 10 minutes to tell all the details of that one. And, we exchanged some not too pleasant words between each other. And on the way back, we said, hey, this rock and roll ain't all it's cracked up to be. Why don't we start a punk rock band, right? And, we thought, oh, yeah, we heard the Ramones. And we thought the Ramones record was like, yeah, that's pretty cool. The songs kind of sound the same, but they're pretty interesting. It's a lot different than anything we heard. So we went out and we started a band that didn't last that long. It's called The Skulls. Yeah. And we played around Vancouver. We moved to Toronto.
I want to talk about Toronto.
Yeah.
Because that's key. So we have to take a break right now.
Okay.
We'll be right back with what happened with DOA, well, the Skulls, when they went to Toronto. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm here with Joe Keithley of DOA and other fantastic, amazing things that you have done in your life.
Okay, thank you.
So where we left off was you're the Skulls. You're in the band The Skulls, and you went to go to Toronto. Is that correct?
Yeah, we got a drive-through motorhome. It said you could take it for free, pay for the fuel, and they just need this motorhome returned to Toronto. And, okay, we thought that's a piece of cake, except it was November, and we got into Manitoba. It was like, there were cars off the road everywhere, and we're just going to and being from Vancouver, we'd really not seen like a lot of snow or ice. Right? I know other Canadians would laugh, but we were just we were complete rookies. But we got there, dropped off the motorhome, and found a cheap house and started rehearsing there and started doing some shows there.
And why did you go to Toronto versus Vancouver?
Yeah, we thought because there's not much happening in punk rock at that point, but there was a kind of a well-noticed scene in Toronto had taken off quicker than Vancouver's had. And, you know, the bands like the Diodes, the Ugly, a bunch of others, right? And some places to play. And Vancouver, there really were no places to play. So we thought, okay, we'll go to Toronto for 4 months and then we'll move on to England and become part of the London punk rock scene, right?
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, so we stayed in Toronto for like 5-6 months, and a couple of the guys went to England, and then me and the drummer went like, I don't know, we'll go to England. We flew back, and that obviously broke up the band, and those guys were pretty mad, but that's, you know, we just made a decision to come back, right? So
yeah, and so where was your first gig in Vancouver?
First gig in Vancouver would have been at the Japanese Hall.
Oh,
downtown East Side,
Yeah.
the famous old wonderful building, and it's pretty funny because there's another band on, and we knew 2.5 songs. We had the singer that couldn't remember lyrics. I was just a guitar player at that point. So this is DOA's first time on stage, and we said, hey, we're a new band. Can we borrow your gear? We will take 10 minutes, right?
This is the first time you were DOA.
Yeah, first time DOA.
Yeah.
So this has been February 15th, 1978, I think. And we got on, we played the 2.5 songs. It went over pretty well. So we started playing the same 2.5 songs over again. And the other band went, hey. And we got into this like wrestling match with them, they're trying to get their guitars back. So I wish there was a film of that. It would have been pretty funny, right? But we kind of went, okay, well, forget it, it's over, right? You know, so like, and that was our debut, and we played a few more times at Japanese Hall, and then we started renting halls around Vancouver, and eventually went to the Smiling Buddha.
Okay.
Which became the home of Vancouver punk rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One aspect that's very interesting to me about punk is the do-it-yourself aspect.
Mm-hmm.
So very soon after that, you produced your first single.
Yeah. Yeah, it was interesting. Well, we had met this one A&R guy. Guy's name was Ray Ramsey. He worked for RCA, which is a big label at the time. And he sort of had a passing interest in DOA. Then he probably said, you guys will never sell any records, right? Type thing, right? And we went, okay. Well, I had seen some local bands had done their own records and were selling them at their shows. I'd seen one Pie Pumpkin String Ensemble with Rick Scott, Sherry Ulrich, and etc. At SFU, and they're selling their own albums. So I found a pressing plant. We went to a studio, recorded 4 songs, and recorded and mixed all in like 8 hours. I got there, I'd only written about half the lyrics. And the guy said, what are you going to sing? And I kind of went like, I don't know. Give me 5 minutes. And I went and finished the lyrics in the foyer and went, okay, I'm ready. And we just, became the Disco Sucks 7-inch EP. And it went on, became like pretty famous, right?
Well, it started in San Francisco, the sort of the fame of it.
Yeah. Well, we got a chart back because what we did, we took all the singles and unpadded. I just mailed them to people, right? And I went into music stores and wrote down addresses of magazines and clubs. And it usually was the short letter said, "Hi, we're a punk rock band from Canada. Can we come and play in your town?" Type thing. It was like, pretty hopeless way I approached it, but it worked. And I sent one to a radio station, SFU, in
San Francisco.
San Francisco.
Yeah.
It was like CKSF or something like that. And they sent back a chart and said, "Oh, your record, Disco Sucks, is #1 on the charts." And we knew as the totally stations like pretty small. We thought like, wow, we made it. We're going to be rock stars or something. Like we didn't know, didn't know Jack, right? And so we went down there, booked a couple shows at Mabuhay Gardens, known as the Fab Mab, and that was like kind of equivalent to CBGB's in San Francisco, the home of punk rock there. And we played a couple nights and met a band called the Avengers, met the Dead Kennedys, and we went over like gangbusters. And that was sort of like all of a sudden California became our home away from home.
Did you find yourself, when you're down in California and you're getting ready to tour and you're getting really popular, did you feel like you could handle it at that point? Or
yeah, well, I mean, sooner or later, I pretty well figured everything was kind of the pseudo band's manager, singer and guitar player all at once, right? And ran our little tiny record label, Sudden Death Records. And eventually we thought we need to get a manager, right? I mean, we talked to Bruce Allen, talked to Tom Harrison, good friend of mine, rest his soul. And we eventually did end up with a manager, neither of them, and kind of got more organized. It was great to get somebody who had an idea what they were doing, right? And but up to that point, we just winged it, right? And and it was so DIY. Sometimes we'd show up in the town, and when we got the manager, I go, well, okay, I'd be driving up. Where's the gig? And he'd go, I don't know. I said, what do you mean you don't know? He says, well, just drive into town and look for punks, and we'll find it. And I thought, what a stupid way to do this, right? But it worked, and we did. Oh, there's a kid with a mohawk. Hey, do you know where the show is? We didn't do that every time, but it was completely ridiculous, right?
Well, but it would work.
It would work, yeah.
And that sort of, it seemed like you sort of just relied on your street sense.
We didn't have money. We weren't getting paid money. The van barely ran, and but didn't matter because we were adventurous. And we thought, okay, well, we're down here now. So we started going to California. Then eventually, not long after that, we went to California, to Texas. And then the big breakthrough, we played, it's one of my favorite shows all the time. It's called Rock Against Racism. And it was on the lakeshore right in Chicago by the Bears Stadium. And it was great. About 7,000 people were there. Patti Smith Group played, and so many people saw us, like from around the Midwest, from Chicago, like Ohio, et cetera, et cetera. And we played songs like Smash the State, The Enemy, World War III, and people kind of were like, who are these guys, right? I never heard of them, right? And that was a ticket because that kind of opened up playing around that area, and there's a lot of people there, obviously.
And you realized that you were really onto something. We
wanted to be three things DOA wanted to do, was play loud, obnoxious punk rock, change the world, and have fun while we're doing it. And that was our goals, and we just set out that way. And we had like Chuck, Randy, and I were like a crazy threesome, and we had some crazy roadies with us too, and a beat-up band, but somehow we got from A to B and back.
Oh, I think you got from more to A to B.
Yeah, a couple more, yeah.
Unfortunately, we have to take another break, okay. But when we come back, we are going to talk about what life is like now for Joe Keithley. Welcome back. I'm here with Joe Keithley. Can you believe your life when you look back on being the iconic, you really not only created something phenomenal, but you influenced so much music internationally. You achieved so much internationally. When you look back on your life, can you believe what you have achieved?
Hard to believe. I'm pretty lucky. I got, my wife Laura and I have been married like 37 years. We got 3 grown kids, got 3 grandkids now. Kept up this career, like 4,500 shows in 50 different countries, and now I got elected, which was the hardest thing to do. I eventually got it done, right? So
it's perfect because it just to me demonstrates the fact that nothing has necessarily come easy for you, and even getting elected was not a straight line.
No, not at all. I ran 6 times before I got elected.
Yeah.
4 times as MLA, 4 MLA. I didn't get elected as MLA. 1 time as the city council. My second time city council got in, and there was 8 spots available, and I got the 8th one by 170 votes, so it was close. I was thinking there might be a recount, but there wasn't, so all good. And I came in 4th last time, so I must be doing something right.
Yeah, you definitely are doing something right. I wanted to know if you felt any conflict about being in politics when you had been, or do you feel like you're just working for the people?
No, no conflict. I think take the same approach that I do in music, that you have to stand up for what you believe in. Mm-hmm. And I think that I encourage people from different walks of life to get into politics, because what we need is people with different skills and different experience to get in there, to get a more even playing field and less traditional areas where they recruit people for elected office, right? So, so that just regular people should get in there and try and get elected and get their viewpoint across. And I think then if you do that, you'll help the regular person a lot better chance of that happening. That the regular working person will be better off if we get some people running that don't come from a money background, for example.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I'm sure you're really good at what you're doing in there. 2 more questions before we go. What advice would you give to people who are too afraid to pursue their dreams?
I mean, with bands, there's one I always think of specifically with music. People wonder if they're playing the right type of music. I would just say, if you believe in what you're playing, just keep playing it. And after a while, you're going to get so good that you'll get a following, you'll build it up. Or you won't, right? It doesn't happen for everybody. But for people in general, kind of my big thing is that you kind of have to take charge in life of what you want to do with it. And you have to establish some principles within yourself, where you're going with your life, taking care of your family, yourself, your friends, your community. I think that's really important. And if you don't have a goal in life, then you end up being like a leaf that just gets blown around this way, that way, whatever, and you don't have control. So you got to have like some grounding, okay? And it doesn't take money, and it doesn't take fame. It just takes being like sturdy and steadfast. And you're like, okay, this is what I believe in. This is what I'm going to fight for.
And what about obstacles? Because you had a lot of obstacles, particularly, throughout the entire career, music career.
It hasn't been easy.
No. What's your view on overcoming obstacles? Because a lot of people just quit when they see an obstacle.
I think you just, there's a DOA album, it's called Fight Back.
Yeah.
It's like you just go, okay, I'm not taking this line down. I'm going to find a way to make this work. And I think that you got to have this inner self-belief, which is kind of the last thing I was talking about, that, that I can get this done. And also, like say, the DIY ethic, I think, Punkrock had a lot to do with it, because we didn't get an easy time from radio stations, from the journalists, from people booking clubs. But it didn't stop us from starting small record companies, doing tours, starting magazines. And a lot of people that became really successful and did some really creative work with that.
Well, that is so inspiring. You are so inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything that you have done for the planet, for the people on the planet, for music, for inspiring people to take action, and for everything that you're doing in politics now for the people. You're a real blessing. So thank you, Joe.
Well, thank you. I'm not finished yet either. So
no, you're just getting started.
I'm just getting started there, people.
Well, that's it for another episode of Bold Leaps. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to YouTube for more inspiring episodes. Tell us your bold leaps in the comments. Special thanks to Fresh Street Market. And remember, every step you take is a step toward your dreams.